Hi, my name is Robert Albritton. I'm with the Railroad Controls. We're out of Fort Worth, Texas, and we're here in Grand Island today to demonstrate our Wayside horn. Our Wayside horn is a stationary horn system that's used in railroad crossings in lieu of the locomotive horn. This device is being investigated by several different communities that are looking to obtain relief from the sounding of the locomotive horn as it goes through their railroad crossings. The Wayside horn is designed to sound like a train horn, so we still provide an audible warning to approaching motorists and pedestrians while eliminating the need for the routine sounding of the locomotive horn. Today we're going to actually demonstrate the Wayside horn at the Pine Street crossing to get decibel readings to compare it against the train horn, and also to provide some exposure to the citizens of what one of the options the city is investigating to address the concern of train horn noise. I'll actually be using a Wayside horn that will be on top of the bucket truck to simulate a horn that is mounted at the crossing. The way the Wayside horn is activated is it's tied into the same warning circuits that the railroad uses to activate the flashing lights and gates, so that as a train is approaching the crossing and it sends a signal to the railroad signal bungalow to begin flashing the lights and lowering the gates, the Wayside horn will sound. The Wayside horn will then sound until the train reaches the crossing. Once the train reaches the crossing, the Wayside horn will go silent. Now, since this is a multiple track crossing, the Wayside horn has the ability to re-blow the warning if a second train approaches on another track. That way, motorists will not be confused as to hearing the warning for the first train, and when the first train leaves, thinking that there's not another train, the Wayside horn will then re-blow to alert the motorist that another train is approaching. Now, the Wayside horn is also equipped with a quiet zone indicator, which is an orange flashing X that is mounted on top of a pole about 25 feet in the air so that it's clearly visible to the locomotive engineers who are traveling down the railroad right-of-way. This flashing orange X continually flashes the whole time the Wayside horn is in a healthy status. As long as everything is working properly, that X will be flashing and the train crew is not required to sound its horn. If there are any malfunctions, or if the Wayside horn loses power, that indicator will go dark. That way the train crew knows that the Wayside horn is not working properly and that they need to sound their horn. The Wayside horn, again, is used at crossings where you want to eliminate the routine sounding of the horn. And when I say the routine sounding of the horn, is if the locomotive engineers see either trespassers walking along the right-of-way, if a motorist drives around the down gates, or there's inclement weather such as heavy fog, rain, or snow, and their visibility of the crossing is limited, they'll still sound their horn. But what this will do is eliminate the routine sounding of the horn. Now what we're going to do is go to several points along the approach to get sound readings of the Wayside horn, and if we're lucky, we'll get to see some train horns so that we can compare apples to apples. The first location will be at 100 feet measured from the near rail. That is where the Federal Railroad Administration said that we had to be a minimum of 92 decibels measured from the near rail of the approach side of the crossing. So what we'll have the horn system calibrated for is 92 decibels. The next location will be at 200 feet out down the approach, and we'll show how the sound levels significantly decrease the further we get away from the crossing. And you will begin to see the drastic comparison between the Wayside horn and the train horn. So at the first location, we'll go ahead and get them to sound the horn, and we'll be able to show you the sound reading of the Wayside horn at approximately 100 feet from the railroad crossing. At this location at 100 feet, the Wayside horn was 92 decibels. And that's the minimum the Federal Railroad Administration says the Wayside horn needs to be. The train horn, on the other hand, was 106 decibels at the same location, which is substantially louder. To give you an idea of the area impacted by a train horn, at 90 decibels and above, as a train's approaching a crossing, is about 31 acres. Whereas the Wayside horn, since we only have to be a minimum of 92 decibels 100 feet from the railroad crossing, we affect a little less than an acre at that same sound level. So you're looking at about a 98% reduction. Now what I want to do is go at 200 feet away from the crossing and sound the Wayside horn again so that you can hear the difference, and then I'll also tell you the same sound reading that we got earlier from a train horn. This is 200 feet away from the crossing. The Wayside horn at this distance was 86 decibels. So it's about a 6 decibel difference from 100 feet away from the crossing. At this same location, when a train came by earlier, I read 102 decibels. So again, the train horn was substantially louder than the Wayside horn. Okay, at this location, we're actually 400 feet from the railroad crossing. I'll go ahead and sound the horn again so you can hear. Obviously, the further you get, the less noisy the Wayside horn is. At this distance, 400 feet away from the railroad tracks, we were getting measurements from 75 up to 78 decibels. Right now, a train is approaching the crossing, so what we're hoping to do is get a decibel reading to compare it to the Wayside horn, and this again is at 400 feet from the crossing. At 400 feet, the last couple of blasts were anywhere between 92 and 98 decibels. So you're seeing a substantial increase in the sound level compared to the Wayside horn earlier when we were getting measurements from 76 to 79 decibels. So almost a 20 decibel increase at 400 feet. Over 106 decibels, and the Wayside horn at this distance would be anywhere between 90 and 92 decibels, significantly louder than the Wayside horn.
We heard a lot of noise here after the train went through from the axles on the train, and also the crossing when the train came through the crossing. And they're doing that total track replacement in the next month or two through Grand Island. They'll put in all new concrete ties for the south set of tracks, and then next year they're going to come back and do the north set of tracks. So all that background noise you heard from the train will be significantly better when they do that total track replacement project later this fall.